A single text message can change everything. For Olivia, it was the message she'd been waiting for, the one that confirmed her husband Daniel had finally secured the promotion he'd sacrificed so much for. In her mind, she pictured his face, the triumph in his eyes. She decided in that joyful moment to orchestrate the perfect surprise. A bottle of vintage champagne, his favorite steak dinner, and her waiting in his gleaming new corner office. But the surprise wasn't the one she had planned. Some doors once opened can never be closed again. And what she saw through the crack in his office door that evening didn't just break her heart. It shattered the entire foundation of her world. The late afternoon sun slanted through the bay windows of Olivia and Daniel Peterson's suburban home in Maple Creek, illuminating dust motes dancing in the golden air. It was a beautiful house, the kind featured in magazines, a testament to a decade of ambition, sacrifice, and what Olivia had always believed was unwavering partnership. Every polished hardwood floor, every carefully chosen piece of art, every manicured rosebush in the garden was a brick in the fortress of their shared life. For 10 years they had been a team. Olivia, a talented freelance graphic designer, had tailored her career to be the supportive bedrock, the flexible partner who could handle life's logistics, while Daniel climbed the treacherous ladder at Sterling and Croft, a titan of the financial world. Today was the day, the culmination of a grueling 18-month project that had consumed Daniel, turning him into a ghost in their own home. There were countless late nights, missed dinners, and weekend plans cancelled by a curt text message. Sorry, babe. Swamped. Rain check. Olivia had swallowed her disappointment, each time reminding herself it was for their future. The senior vice president position wasn't just a job, it was the key to the life they had sketched out on cocktail napkins back in their tiny post-college apartment, a life with more time for each other, travel, and maybe finally the family they had put on hold. Olivia glanced at the kitchen counter, where 2 champagne flutes stood, waiting, gleaming and expectant. Beside them, a reservation confirmation for their favorite Italian restaurant, Trattoria Valenti, sat tucked under a small weighted box from a luxury watch brand. It was a celebratory gift, a classic timepiece, with the date of his promotion engraved on the back. She had been so sure, so confident. Daniel was brilliant driven and the best at what he did. His boss, Mr. Albright, saw him as a protégé. It was a done deal. Her phone buzzed, startling her from her reverie. Her best friend Sophie was on the line, her voice a bubbly current of energy. Any word from the man of the hour? Sophie asked, the "they" drawn out for dramatic effect. Not yet. Olivia said, her own voice, tight with a nervous excitement she couldn't quell. I'm a wreck. I've been pacing a trench into the floorboard since noon. Relax, Liv. He's got this in the bag. Albright would be an idiot to give it to Henderson. Henderson still uses a flip phone, for God's sake. Olivia laughed, the sound easing some of the tension in her shoulders. You're right. I know you're right. I want this for him so badly. You have no idea what he's been through these past few months. Oh, I think I do, Sophie said, her tone softening with empathy. And so do you. You've been right there with him, even when he wasn't really there. You deserve this win as much as he does. The words were meant to be a comfort, but they pricked at a tiny buried feeling of loneliness. She had been there, but she'd been alone. She'd eaten countless dinners by herself, attended friends' parties solo, and woken up more times than she could count to the empty space beside her in their king-sized bed. It will all be worth it, she chanted to herself, a mantra that had sustained her for months. They chatted for a few more minutes about Sophie's latest dating disaster before hanging up. As Olivia placed her phone down, it buzzed again, this time with a text. Her heart leapt into her throat. It was from Daniel. "Daniel, I got it." Just 3 words in all caps, but they were 3 words that unlocked their future. A wave of pure, unadulterated joy washed over Olivia. Tears welled in her eyes as a breathless laugh escaped her lips. He did it. He had actually done it. She immediately began typing a reply, her fingers flying across the screen. "OMG, Daniel. I knew it. I'm so incredibly proud of you. We have to celebrate." His response came back almost instantly. "Daniel, I know. Can't wait. But listen, Albright is taking the team out for mandatory drinks. Going to be a late one. Don't wait up. We'll celebrate properly this weekend, I promise." A familiar pang of disappointment pierced through her elation. Mandatory drinks? Of course. Just one more night, one more rain check. But then a new idea began to bloom in her mind, bold and exciting. The weekend felt a lifetime away. He deserved to celebrate now, and she deserved to be the one to celebrate with him. What if she brought the celebration to him? The thought was exhilarating. She could cancel the restaurant reservation. Instead, she'd pack up a surprise. She'd get his favorite takeout, the spicy rigatoni from the very trattoria they were supposed to go to. She'd grab the chilled champagne, and she'd just show up. His new office, the corner one on the 45th floor he'd been coveting for years, the one with the panoramic view of the city. She imagined the look on his face, the surprise, the gratitude, the love. After all the lonely nights and sacrificed moments, this would be their moment. A spontaneous, perfect start to their new life. It would be a story they'd tell for years. The night she surprised him after his big promotion. The plan solidified in her mind, chasing away any lingering disappointment. She moved with purpose, a woman on a mission. She called the restaurant and changed the reservation to a takeout order. She carefully wrapped the chilled champagne bottle in a thermal sleeve and placed it in a chic tote bag along with the crystal flutes, carefully buffered with linen napkins. She touched up her makeup, a smile playing on her lips the entire time. This was so much better than a stuffy dinner. This was real. This was them. As she drove towards the glittering steel and glass skyscraper that housed Sterling and Croft, the city lights blurred into a kaleidoscope of celebratory beacons. The playlist on her car stereo seemed to match her mood, every song an anthem of victory and love. She felt a lightness she hadn't felt in months, the weight of the long wait finally lifted. The fortress of their life had just gained its highest turret. She was on her way to celebrate with the king of her castle, completely unaware that she was about to find a traitor already inside the gates. The lobby of the Sterling and Croft building was an imposing cathedral of marble and chrome, designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. But tonight, Olivia strode through it with the confidence of a VIP. The evening security guard, a kindly older man named Arthur, whom she'd gotten to know over her few visits, gave her a warm smile. "Evening, Mrs. Peterson. Late night for you," he observed. "Hi, Arthur. I'm here to surprise my husband. He just got a big promotion today," she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Ah, Mr. Peterson. I heard the whispers. Senior VP. That's fantastic news. He's a good man. Works harder than anyone I see in this place." Arthur's words were another log on the fire of her pride. They're mostly all cleared out for the night, but he's still up there. Go on up. He's earned a good surprise. The elevator ride to the 45th floor was a silent, swift ascent. Olivia's reflection in the mirrored walls showed a woman glowing with happiness. She smoothed her dress and checked her hair, her heart thrumming a giddy rhythm against her ribs. When the doors opened, the floor was hushed and dimly lit. The bustling daytime energy had been replaced by a deep, reverent silence, broken only by the low hum of electronics. Most of the desks in the vast open-plan area were dark computer screens sleeping. Daniel's new office was at the far end of the floor, a glass-walled corner suite that was a symbol of status and power. As she walked towards it, her heels clicking softly on the polished concrete floor, she could see a light was on inside. Her smile widened. He was there. Probably too wired to leave, just sitting and soaking it all in. She clutched the tote bag, the cool shape of the champagne bottle pressing against her side. She decided to make her entrance as quiet as possible to maximize the surprise. She tiptoed the last few feet, her breath held in anticipation. The door was slightly ajar, a narrow sliver of light cutting across the dark carpet. Perfect. Peeking through the crack, she prepared to swing the door open with a triumphant surprise, but the word died in her throat. The scene inside was not what she had imagined. Daniel was there, yes, but he wasn't alone. He was standing near the massive window, the city's glittering skyline, a backdrop to a drama she couldn't comprehend. His back was mostly to her, but she could see he was holding someone. A woman, a slender woman with sleek dark hair, cut in a sharp, modern bob. Olivia recognized her instantly, Jessica Monroe from Daniel's team. He'd mentioned her a few times, the sharp new analyst, the secret weapon on his project. For a frozen second, Olivia's mind refused to process the image. Maybe he was comforting her. Maybe she was upset about something, and Daniel, as her new boss, was offering a supportive, professional hug. Her brain scrambled for a logical, innocent explanation, a life raft in a suddenly treacherous sea. But then he shifted slightly. His hand, which had been on her back, slid up to cup the back of her head, his fingers tangling in her dark hair. He tilted her chin up, and then slowly, deliberately, he leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a quick, friendly peck. It was a long, deep and lingering kiss filled with a shocking intimacy. It was the kind of kiss they hadn't shared in months. Olivia watched paralyzed as Jessica's arms snaked around his neck, pulling him closer. The tote bag in Olivia's hand suddenly felt impossibly heavy, as if it were filled with stones instead of a celebration. The champagne bottle, once a symbol of their triumph, now felt like a weapon. Time seemed to warp and distort. Seconds stretched into an eternity. All she could hear was the frantic roaring pulse in her own ears, drowning out the faint hum of the building. Her vision narrowed, until the only thing in the world was that tableau in the office, the two figures silhouetted against the indifferent city lights. The man she had loved since she was 20 years old, the man for whom she had built her entire world, was kissing another woman in his new office on the very night that was supposed to be the culmination of their shared dreams. A strangled sound, a mix between a gasp and a sob, caught in her throat. She slapped a hand over her mouth, terrified of being discovered. The movement broke her paralysis. She needed to get out. Now. Moving with a robotic, jerky motion, she backed away from the door, her steps clumsy and loud in the oppressive silence. She prayed they hadn't heard her. She turned and fled, not walking, but not quite running, a desperate, stumbling retreat down the long corridor. She didn't dare look back. In the elevator, her reflection was a stranger, a pale, wild-eyed woman with a face contorted in a mask of horror and disbelief. Her hand was still clamped over her mouth, and her knuckles were white. The tote bag dropped from her other hand, and the champagne flutes clinked together with a sickeningly cheerful sound. The sound shattered the silence, and it shattered Olivia. A single dry sob escaped her lips. The doors opened to the lobby, and she walked past Arthur's desk without seeing him, her eyes fixed on some distant point of agony. "Everything all right, Mrs. Peterson?" he called out, his voice laced with concern. She couldn't answer. She couldn't form words. She just pushed through the heavy glass doors and out into the cool night air which felt suffocating. She stumbled towards her car, fumbling for her keys. The city lights that had looked so celebratory on her way here now seemed to mock her. Each twinkling light, a tiny sharp piece of glass aimed directly at her heart. She had gone to his office to surprise him with a celebration of their new beginning, but the only surprise she found was the brutal, undeniable end of everything she had ever known. The drive home was a blur. Olivia operated on pure primal instinct, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her fingers ached, her eyes staring unseeingly at the road ahead. The familiar route felt alien, as if she were a tourist in her own life. Stoplights changed, cars honked. The city moved around her, but she was trapped in the frozen moment of that kiss, replaying it on a torturous loop in her mind, the way his hand tangled in Jessica's hair, the possessive tilt of his head, the utter betrayal etched in that silhouette. When she finally pulled into their driveway, she cut the engine and sat in the suffocating silence of the car. She looked at their beautiful house, the warm lights glowing in the windows, a picture of domestic bliss. It was a lie. The whole thing was a lie. The house wasn't a fortress. It was a stage, a carefully constructed set for a play in which she was the unwitting fool. Leaving the tote bag of shattered dreams on the passenger seat, she stumbled into the house. The scent of lemon polish and fresh flowers, usually a comfort, now smelled cloying and fake. She walked through the rooms, her hand trailing along the walls, touching the framed photos on the mantelpiece. There they were smiling on their wedding day. There they were laughing on a beach in Greece. There they were a year ago, at a Christmas party, his arm wrapped securely around her. Each photograph was a fresh stab of pain, a testament to a history she no longer knew how to read. Was it all a performance? Had he been lying to her then, too? Her legs gave out, and she sank onto the plush living room rug, the one they had spent an entire weekend picking out. The carefully contained shock from the drive home finally broke, and a tidal wave of emotion crashed over her. It wasn't just sadness, it was a raw, visceral agony that seemed to tear her apart from the inside. A guttural scream of pain ripped from her throat, a sound she didn't recognize as her own. She pounded her fists against the floor, the physical pain a welcome distraction from the unbearable anguish in her chest. How could he do this to them? To her? On this day, of all days. The sheer cruelty of it was breathtaking. He wasn't just cheating, he was desecrating their victory, tarnishing the one thing that had kept her going through all the lonely nights. After the rage subsided, a chilling numbness began to seep in. She felt hollowed out, a fragile shell. Her mind, in a desperate act of self-preservation, began to grasp for details, for clues she must have missed. The late nights weren't just about work. The business dinners weren't just with clients. The newfound distance she had attributed to stress and ambition was something far more sinister. She was a fool, a trusting, supportive, loving fool. Her phone lying on the coffee table buzzed. It was a text from Daniel. Daniel heading home soon. Drinks were a drag. Can't wait to see my beautiful wife. Love you. The casual, familiar words were like poison. Love you. The hypocrisy was so profound, it made her physically sick. She lurched to her feet and ran to the bathroom, retching violently into the toilet. There was nothing in her stomach to come up, just dry, heaving sobs that tore at her throat. When the spasm subsided, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back was a ghost. Her eyes were red-rimmed and hollow, her face pale and streaked with tears. Who was this person? What was she supposed to do now? She needed Sophie. With trembling fingers, She dialed her best friend's number. Sophie picked up on the second ring. "Hey, did he love the watch? Is he home yet? Tell me everything." Sophie's cheerful voice was a stark contrast to the wreckage of Olivia's world. Olivia tried to speak, but only a choked sob came out. "Liv, what's wrong? Are you crying? What happened?" Sophie's tone shifted instantly from cheerful to alarmed. "Did he not get it? Tell me what happened." "He got it," Olivia whispered, her voice hoarse and broken. "He got the promotion." "Okay." "So what's wrong, Liv? You're scaring me." Taking a shaky breath, Olivia forced the words out. "I went to his office, Soph. To surprise him, like we talked about. I brought champagne." She trailed off another sob, threatening to overwhelm her, and Sophie prompted gently. "What happened at the office? He wasn't alone." Olivia said the words, tasting like ash. He was with someone, Jessica Monroe, from his team. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line as Sophie processed this. Okay, maybe it was professional. Late-night work, tying up loose ends. He was kissing her. Sophie Olivia finally wailed the confession, unleashing a fresh torrent of tears. He was kissing her like he loves her. And I just stood there and watched, a sharp intake of breath followed by a string of curses from Sophie. "That son of a bitch! That absolute bastard!" "Olivia, I am so sorry. Oh my God. Where are you now? I'm home. He's on his way. He texted me. He said he loves me." The words came out in a bitter, hysterical laugh. "Okay, listen to me." Sophie's voice was firm, a lifeline in the storm. "You do not have to see him tonight. You hear me pack a bag? Come to my place. Right now. We'll figure this out tomorrow, but you cannot be there when he walks through that door." "I can't," Olivia whispered. "I can't move. My legs feel like lead." "Yes, you can. You are the strongest person I know. Get up, go to your closet, and put some things in a bag. I'm leaving my apartment right now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Do not talk to him. Do not see him. Just get in your car and come to me or wait for me to get there. Promise me, Liv." "Okay." She whispered the word barely audible. "Okay." Hanging up the phone, Olivia felt a tiny flicker of resolve. Sophie was right. She couldn't face him. Not tonight. Not while the image of his betrayal was burned onto the back of her eyelids. She needed to escape the stage before the lead actor came home for his final, fraudulent performance. Dragging herself upstairs, she pulled an overnight bag from the closet, her movements slow and robotic. She was no longer a wife planning a celebration. She was a refugee fleeing the ruins of her own life. The 20 minutes it took for Sophie to arrive felt like a lifetime. Olivia moved through her bedroom in a daze, pulling clothes from drawers and hangers at random. A silk blouse she'd worn on their anniversary dinner. The comfortable sweater Daniel loved to see her in. Each item was a memory, a tiny, sharp shard of a life that was no longer real. Her hands froze on the velvet box containing the watch. With a surge of bitter anger, she shoved it to the back of her closet, burying it under a pile of scarves. He would never see it. He would never know. Just as she zipped the bag, she heard the crunch of tires in the driveway. It wasn't Sophie's small coupe. It was the familiar guttural roar of Daniel's sports sedan. Panic, cold and sharp, seized her. He was early. He was home. There was no escape. Her mind raced. She couldn't let him see the bag. She couldn't let him see her tear-streaked face. Her flight instinct was warring with a new, colder feeling that was beginning to crystallize in the pit of her stomach, a morbid curiosity. She wanted to see him. She wanted to see how he would act, how he would lie to her face. She shoved the overnight bag under the bed and rushed to the bathroom, splashing her face with more cold water, trying to erase the evidence of her breakdown. She took deep, shuddering breaths, forcing a fragile calm over the raging storm inside her. "You can do this," she told herself. "You can pretend. For a few hours, for a night." She had to. She wasn't ready for the confrontation. She wasn't ready for the world to end officially. She needed time. She heard the front door open, followed by his cheerful call. "Liv, I'm home." Taking one last look at her pale, strained face in the mirror, Olivia composed her features into a mask of placid welcome and walked out of the bedroom. Daniel was standing in the foyer, shrugging off his expensive coat. He looked flushed with victory, his eyes bright, his smile wide and confident. He was handsome, charismatic, and the sight of him sent a fresh wave of pain through her. He looked like the man she loved, but he was a stranger. "There you are," he said, his smile widening as he saw her. He strode forward and wrapped her in a hug, pressing a kiss to her forehead. His suit smelled of expensive cologne, and faintly a perfume that wasn't hers. The scent, a delicate floral note, made her stomach clench. It was the smell of Jessica. Olivia forced herself not to recoil. She stood stiffly in his embrace, her body a block of ice. "Hey," she said, her voice sounding thin and reedy to her own ears. "Congratulations, Mr. Senior Vice President. I'm so proud of you." She pulled back before he could feel the frantic, betrayed thumping of her heart. "We did it, babe. We finally did it," he said, his eyes shining. He was oblivious, completely, utterly oblivious. God, the look on Henderson's face. It was priceless. You should have seen it. I should have seen a lot of things, she thought bitterly. Albright's taking me to Chicago next week to meet the board. This is it. Everything we've worked for. He ran a hand through his hair, buzzing with a restless energy. "I'm sorry about tonight. The drinks were unavoidable. All the sycophants came out of the woodwork. It's okay," she said, the lie tasting like acid on her tongue. "We can celebrate this weekend. I've already made plans. That's my girl, always one step ahead." He pulled a bottle of whiskey from the bar cart. "Want one? I need to wind down." "No, I'm good." She just wanted him to stop talking, to stop smiling, to stop acting like everything was perfect. He poured himself a generous measure and sank onto the sofa, loosening his tie. It was a brutal day. Final presentations, then the long wait in Albright's office. Jessica was a rock star, by the way. She caught a potential error in the quarterly projections right before we went in. Honestly, I couldn't have sealed this without her. I owe her big time. He said her name. He said her name so casually, so easily, right here in their living room. Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. She gripped the back of a nearby armchair, her knuckles turning white, convinced she was going to faint. He was praising the woman he had been kissing not 2 hours ago. The audacity, the sheer, unmitigated gall of it was staggering. "That's great," she managed to choke out. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a series of frantic texts from Sophie. "Sophie, Liv, where are you, Sophie? His car is there. Did you leave? Are you okay? Sophie, answer me." Daniel glanced at the phone. "Who's that?" "Just Sophie," Olivia said, quickly snatching the phone before he could see the screen. "She's asking about my new project." She typed a hasty reply. "At home. He's here. Can't talk. I'm okay. We'll explain later." She sent the message and put the phone on silent, her heart pounding. It was a close call. A glimpse of Sophie's frantic messages, and her carefully constructed facade would have crumbled. Daniel didn't seem to notice her distress. He was too wrapped up in his own triumph. He continued to recount the day's events in excruciating detail, oblivious to her monosyllabic responses and the deadness in her eyes. It was a masterful performance, of a loving husband returning home to his supportive wife. And Olivia found herself playing her part, the supportive wife, with a chilling proficiency she never knew she possessed. She nodded. She smiled faintly. She said, "Wow, and that's amazing at all the right moments." Inside, she was cataloguing everything. The new, expensive-looking tie clip she didn't recognize, the faint lipstick smudge on his collar that was only visible when he turned his head, just so, a pale pink, not her shade of red. The way he kept his own phone, face down on the table beside him, something he never used to do. Each detail was a nail in the coffin of their marriage. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a careless one. He was so confident in her trust, so secure in her naivety, that he didn't even bother to cover his tracks properly. The thought didn't make her feel better. It made her feel more foolish, more profoundly humiliated. Later, as they got ready for bed, the pretense became almost unbearable. He hummed a cheerful tune while brushing his teeth. He slid into bed and reached for her, his arm draping casually over her waist. "Long day," he murmured into her hair. "But a good one. The best one." Olivia lay rigid in the dark, every muscle screaming. She felt his warm breath on her neck and wanted to tear herself away. How many times had he come home to her from a tryst with Jessica? How many times had he laid beside her like this, his mind filled with another woman? The intimacy of their bedroom, their bed felt violated, tainted. She feigned sleep, regulating her breathing into a slow, even rhythm until she heard his own breathing deepen into a genuine slumber. Only then did she allow the silent tears to fall, soaking her pillow. She was sleeping next to the enemy, trapped in the ruins of her life, and for the first time, she wasn't just heartbroken. She was furious. And in that cold, quiet rage, a new resolve took root. She wasn't going to just cry and run away. She was going to find out everything. The weekend that was supposed to be a celebration became Olivia's clandestine investigation. Daniel, buoyed by his success, was in a magnanimous mood. He suggested they go out for their celebratory dinner on Saturday night at Trattoria Valenti, the very place she had planned for them. The irony was so thick she could have choked on it. She agreed, playing the part of the doting wife, while her mind worked like a forensic accountant, searching for discrepancies in the ledger of their life. Her first opportunity came on Saturday morning. Daniel announced he was going for a long run, a new habit he'd picked up to de-stress. As soon as the front door closed, Olivia sprang into action. Her first target was his briefcase, which he'd uncharacteristically left on the desk in their home office. Her hands trembled as she unlatched it. It felt like a profound violation of privacy, but the events of the past 48 hours had obliterated any such scruples. Inside were files, a laptop, and his wallet. She ignored the work documents and went straight for the wallet. Tucked behind his driver's license and credit cards was a small folded receipt. It was from a jewelry store called Boutique d'Amour, a place known for its delicate modern pieces. The date was from 3 weeks ago. The item purchased a single gold pendant, an initial JA. The price made her gasp over $900. It wasn't a corporate gift. It was personal, intimate. A sick feeling coiled in her stomach. She pictured that J pendant tour resting on Jessica's skin as Daniel kissed her. Next, the laptop. She knew his password. It was their wedding anniversary. The predictability of it was almost laughable. She opened his web browser. The history had been cleared recently, a red flag in itself, but he had forgotten about the cloud-synced tabs on his work account. There it was, a search history, filled with bookings for boutique hotels in their own city. The Hemlock Inn, the Chamberlain Suite. They were for out-of-town clients. He had told her an excuse for why he had to stay in the city overnight, after a late meeting. It was all a lie. The worst discovery came when she logged into their shared phone plan account online, a task she usually handled. She pulled up the detailed billing statements for the past 6 months. Her eyes scanned down the list of Daniel's calls and texts. There was one number that appeared with startling, damning frequency. Dozens of texts a day. Phone calls late at night, some lasting over an hour. On dates he had told her he was stuck on a conference call with the Singapore office. She looked up the number. It was registered to Jessica Monroe. The timeline was the most devastating part. The constant communication had started 6 months ago. 6 months. Olivia's mind reeled back. What was happening 6 months ago? Her blood ran cold. It was the month after her miscarriage. The memory was a fresh agony. After years of putting it off for his career, they had finally decided to try for a baby. They had been overjoyed when she'd gotten pregnant, only to have their hopes dashed 8 weeks later. It had shattered her. Daniel had been supportive, or so she'd thought. He held her while she cried, told her they would get through it, that they would try again when the time was right. But now, looking at these phone records, she realized that while she was grieving the loss of their child, he was starting an affair. He had sought comfort not in her arms, but in another woman's bed. This new knowledge was a different kind of pain. It was deeper, more corrosive than the shock of seeing the kiss. The kiss was a betrayal of their present. This was a betrayal of their deepest, most vulnerable past. He hadn't just cheated on his wife. He had abandoned his partner in her darkest hour. The grief she felt for their lost baby was now tangled up with a profound, soul-crushing sense of deception. She kept digging a woman possessed. She found the credit card statements. The jewelry store charge was there, along with dozens of others she couldn't explain. Charges for flowers delivered to a downtown address. Extravagant dinners for 2 at restaurants he'd claimed he visited with clients. Lingerie from a high-end store she had never shopped at. He had been funding a whole separate life, a secret relationship with their joint money. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place when she accessed his cloud photo storage, a place he probably thought was secure. Tucked away in a folder, mislabeled Q4 projections, she found them. Photos. Dozens of them. Selfies of Daniel and Jessica, smiling in a hotel room, Jessica wearing the J pendant. A photo of them clinking wine glasses on a sun-drenched terrace that he had claimed was from a solo work retreat. A picture of her sleeping in a bed, her dark hair fanned out on a pillow that wasn't from their home. He looked happy in the photos, genuinely uncomplicatedly happy. It was a look she hadn't seen on his face in years. He wasn't the stressed, burdened man he was at home. He was carefree, infatuated. He wasn't just having a sordid affair. He was in love with her. Olivia stared at the screen, her heart a block of ice in her chest. The woman in the pictures wasn't just a colleague. She was his partner in every sense of the word except legally. Olivia was the one with the ring and the mortgage, but Jessica was the one who had his heart. When Daniel returned from his run, sweaty and invigorated, Olivia was sitting on the sofa, her face a calm, placid mask. She had closed all the tabs, put the receipt back in his wallet, and hidden the storm of evidence behind a firewall in her mind. "Hey," he said, kissing the top of her head. "Ready for a great day?" "Absolutely," she replied, her voice smooth as glass. "I can't wait for tonight." He saw a wife ready to celebrate. He had no idea he was looking at a judge who had already seen all the evidence and was merely waiting for the right moment to deliver the sentence. The performance was no longer about self-preservation. It was now about strategy. She would let him have his celebration. She would sit through the dinner, listen to his lies and smile. She would let him believe he had gotten away with everything. The confrontation would not be a tearful, hysterical scene. It would be a cold, calculated demolition, and she would be the one holding the detonator. Saturday night arrived heavy with unspoken truths. Olivia wore a stunning black dress, one Daniel had always loved. She applied her makeup with a surgeon's precision, creating an illusion of elegance and calm that was a world away from the turmoil raging within her. As she looked at her reflection, she saw a stranger looking back, a woman with eyes that held a new, hard glitter. The soft, trusting wife was gone, replaced by someone she didn't yet know. Daniel was effusive, preening in his success. He complimented her dress, her hair, the way she looked at him. "Tonight is for us. Live," he said, taking her hand as they walked into Trattoria Valente. A toast to the future. The dinner was a surreal piece of theatre. The restaurant, once their special place, felt like a courtroom. Daniel ordered their favorite wine and launched into an eloquent monologue about their journey, his gratitude for her support and his excitement for the life they were about to build. He was charming, persuasive, and utterly fraudulent. Olivia listened, nodding and smiling at the appropriate cues. She asked questions about his new role, about the Chicago trip, about the people he would be managing. With each lie he told, each omission he made, she felt a strange sense of detachment, as if she were watching a movie about someone else's life. He talked about integrity and hard work being the cornerstones of his success. The hypocrisy was so profound, it was almost comical. When their main courses arrived, she decided it was time. She waited for him to finish a bite of his veal parmesan, then placed her fork down gently on her plate. "I found a receipt in your briefcase yesterday," she said, her voice quiet but carrying a deadly precision, "from a place called Boutique d'Amour." Daniel froze his fork halfway to his mouth. A flicker of something panic maybe crossed his face before being replaced by a mask of casual confusion. Oh, that it was a corporate gift. For one of the clients on the project. You know how it is. A corporate gift. Olivia tilted her head. A gold pendant with the initial J. That seems rather personal for a client, don't you think? His composure started to crack. He put his fork down. "Listen, Liv, it's complicated. It was for Jessica. She was instrumental to the project's success. It was a thank you bonus, a gesture. A $900 gesture," Olivia said, her voice remaining level. "Just like the flowers you sent to her downtown apartment, or the dinners at Le Ciel Bleu, were those all thank you bonuses as well." The color drained from Daniel's face. He looked around the restaurant, his eyes darting nervously. "What are you talking about? Where is this coming from? Don't insult my intelligence." "Daniel," she said, her voice dropping to a steely whisper, "don't you dare. I saw you. Thursday night, in your new office. I came to surprise you." The confession hung in the air between them, thick and suffocating. Daniel's face crumbled. The confident senior vice president vanished, replaced by a cornered, guilty man. He opened his mouth, then closed it, no lies readily available to save him now. "Liv, I can explain," he stammered. "Can you?" She asked, a humorless smile touching her lips. "Can you explain the hotel rooms, the Chamberlain suite, the Hemlock Inn? Were those for out-of-town clients too? Or were you the out-of-town client in your own city? Can you explain the hundreds of texts, the late-night phone calls, the photos, Daniel, the ones in the folder labeled Q4 projections? You look so happy in them." She laid out the evidence piece by piece, a calm, relentless prosecutor. With every detail she recited, he seemed to shrink, the weight of his deceit crushing him. He slumped in his chair, the fight draining out of him. "I'm so sorry, Olivia," he whispered, his voice thick with a pathetic self-pity. "I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." The pressure at work, the miscarriage. I was lost. She understood. The mention of the miscarriage was the final straw. Olivia's icy composure finally fractured, and a hot, white-hot rage surged through her. "Don't you dare!" she hissed, leaning across the table, her voice dangerously low. "Don't you dare use the loss of our child as an excuse for you to crawl into another woman's bed. While I was grieving, you were starting an affair. While I was trying to put our family back together, you were building a new one with her." She understood. What did she understand? Daniel. That you were a coward, that you couldn't handle real life, real pain, so you ran to something easy and new. He flinched as if she had slapped him. "It's not like that. It's complicated." "No, it's not, Olivia," said her voice regaining its cold clarity. "It's very, very simple. You're a liar and a cheat, and you've destroyed everything we built. We can fix this," he pleaded, reaching for her hand. "I'll end it. I'll end it right now. It was a mistake, a stupid, terrible mistake. It's you I love, Liv. It's always been you." Olivia looked at his desperate, pleading face, and she felt nothing. No love, no pity, just a vast, empty wasteland where her heart used to be. She pulled her hand away. "Is that what you told her? What, that it was a mistake?" "That you love me," Olivia pressed, "because a woman doesn't stick around for 6 months for a man who says he loves his wife." "So what did you tell her, Daniel? That you were going to leave me after the promotion was secured, that we were already over?" He couldn't meet her eyes. His silence was her answer. "I thought so," she said softly. She took a sip of her wine, the liquid tasteless on her tongue. It was time for the final devastating blow. This was the one piece of information she didn't have but was about to gamble on. A woman's intuition, a cold guess based on the timeline. "There's one more thing you should know. Daniel," she began, watching him closely, "before you make any more empty promises. I got a call this morning from a rather distraught woman. It seems she found my number and was having a bit of a crisis. Apparently her period is late." Daniel's head snapped up, his eyes wide, with pure, unadulterated horror. The blood completely drained from his face, leaving him a ghastly shade of grey. His reaction told her everything. Her wild guess had hit its mark. "She's pregnant, isn't she?" Olivia stated it not as a question, but as a fact. The final damning piece of his betrayal. Daniel stared at her, his mouth opening and closing like a fish, utterly speechless. He had not only given another woman his heart, he had given her the child they had lost. Olivia slowly placed her napkin on the table. She stood up, her movements graceful and deliberate. The entire restaurant seemed to fade away, the other patrons and waiters nothing more than blurred background figures. It was just the two of them at the scene of the crime. "Congratulations on all your success, Daniel," she said, her voice devoid of all emotion. "It seems you have a new future to build after all." And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving him sitting alone amidst the ruins of their 10-year marriage, with a bill to pay for a celebration that had become a funeral. Olivia did not go back to the house in Maple Creek. She drove straight to Sophie's apartment, a small, cozy space that felt more like a sanctuary than her own sprawling, empty house ever had. When Sophie opened the door, she took one look at Olivia's face, a mask of grim victory and profound exhaustion, and pulled her into a fierce hug. Olivia didn't cry. She was beyond tears. She simply leaned into her friend's embrace, letting her strength hold her up. She spent the next few days in a state of suspended animation, moving through the motions of life on autopilot. She called her parents and told them a sanitized version of the truth. "We're separating. It's for the best," fending off their worried questions with a weariness that brooked no argument. The true work began on Monday morning. Instead of wallowing in her grief, Olivia channeled her fury into action. She found the name of the most tenacious, sharp-witted divorce lawyer in the city, a woman named Catherine Vance, known for being both compassionate with her clients and a shark in the courtroom. Walking into Ms. Vance's sleek, minimalist office was the first step toward reclaiming her life. Olivia recounted the entire story from the planned surprise to the final devastating confrontation at the restaurant. She spoke with a calm, factual detachment, presenting the timeline of the affair and the evidence she had gathered, the receipts, the hotel bookings, the phone records, as if she were a witness in someone else's case. Catherine Vance listened patiently, her expression unreadable. When Olivia finished, the lawyer leaned forward, a look of steely resolve in her eyes. "Mrs. Peterson," she said, her voice firm but kind, "you have been through an unimaginable betrayal. Daniel's infidelity, particularly its timing, and the blatant use of marital assets to fund it, is not just morally reprehensible, it's leverage. We are not going to ask for a fair settlement. We are going to demand a just one." For the first time in days, Olivia felt a flicker of something other than pain or anger. It was hope. The next call was to Daniel. He had been bombarding her with texts and voicemails, filled with frantic apologies, desperate pleas and hollow promises. She had ignored them all. When he answered, his voice was a wreck, thick with desperation. "Liv, oh God, Liv, please, just talk to me. We can fix this. I'll do anything." "There is nothing to fix, Daniel," Olivia said, her voice cold and final. "I have retained a lawyer. Her name is Catherine Vance. Her office will be in touch with you or your legal counsel to begin divorce proceedings." No, please don't do this," he begged. "It was a mistake. I love you. You are going to be a father, Daniel," she stated flatly, cutting through his pleas. "Your responsibility is to that child now. My only communication with you from this point forward will be through our lawyers regarding the division of our assets." She heard a sharp intake of breath, then a choked sob. For a moment, she felt a pang of something, the ghost of the love she once had for him. But it was fleeting. The man she had loved wouldn't have been capable of such profound deceit. That man was gone if he had ever truly existed at all. "Goodbye, Daniel," she said, and hung up before he could reply. With that single action, a decade of her life came to a definitive end. In the weeks that followed, Olivia dismantled her old life with the same meticulous care with which she had once built it. Guided by her lawyer, she began the arduous process of untangling their finances. She packed up her personal belongings from the house in Maple Creek, moving with a small team of movers during a time she knew Daniel would be at work. Walking through the rooms for the last time, she felt a strange sense of peace. It was no longer her home. It was a museum of a life that was over, and she was ready to leave. She found a new apartment in the city, a bright, airy space with a small balcony overlooking a park. It was smaller than her old house, but it was hers. She filled it not with memories of the past, but with promises for the future, new furniture, vibrant art, and shelves of books she had always meant to read. She poured her energy into her work, taking on new, challenging clients, and rediscovering the passion for design that had been overshadowed by her role as a supportive wife. She learned through the legal proceedings that Jessica had indeed been pregnant, and that she and Daniel were trying to build a life together. The news, which once would have shattered her, now barely registered. They were characters in a story that no longer involved her. Their future was their own tangled web to navigate. One crisp autumn morning, months later, Olivia stood on her new balcony, a cup of coffee warming her hands. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was a new day. She was not the same woman who had planned a surprise party full of hope and love. She was stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The betrayal had left scars deep and permanent, but they were no longer open wounds. They were reminders of what she had survived. She had walked through the fire of the worst kind of heartbreak, and had emerged from the ashes, not unscathed, but whole. Her future was a blank canvas, and for the first time in a very long time, she was the only artist with the brush. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Olivia's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the life we plan is not the life we are meant to live, and that the deepest betrayals can sometimes lead to our greatest rebirths. It shows us that strength isn't about never falling. It's about how we rise after we've been pushed to the ground. If you were moved by Olivia's resilience and her fight for a new beginning, please show your support. Hit that like button to let us know this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need to hear a story of survival and hope.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.